More than half of college students are women, but only a handful study technology.
Women earn only 18% of computer science degrees in the U.S., and blacks and Hispanics less than 10% each.
Since 2002, the wage gap for women in this country has not moved.
A whopping 90% of the company is white or Asian, and 70% of employees are men.
Tech is for boys.
Blah, blah, blah. Anyone else tired of hearing about these numbers? Let Lesbians Who Tech show you how it's done.
I started Lesbians Who Tech really as an experiment because I honestly thought it would fail.
Lesbians Who Tech? Are you kidding me? There's more than one?
I thought it would be like 80 really irritating lesbians in a room, like yammering on about, you know, JavaScript.
Lesbians que?
We hosted a happy hour. 40 people showed up. By the third event, we had people out the door waiting in line. And these were all new people. These were all smart, brilliant, fun people I'd never seen before. It was in that moment I knew we had something, but I really honestly didn't think we had an organization until the first summit.
Welcome to Lesbians Who Tech.
We had over 800 people show up. And we also had the support of some pretty major tech companies early on because they also wanted to solve the problem of more women representation in technology, specifically more LGBT women. And in that moment, I knew I wanted to show up and build this thing.
So we launched in New York, DC, LA, Portland, and all over the country. We hit 5,000 members, 10,000. Launched chapters in London, Berlin, Tel Aviv, Brazil, and Shanghai. Launched a coding scholarship for LGBTQ women and a mentoring program called Bring a Lesbian to Work Day. And today, we are a global community of 15,000 queer women in technology and our allies.
Lesbians Who Tech last year literally changed my life and the whole story of our company. Our user base doubled in the space of like 2 days and then doubled again in 2 weeks. We had offers of investment. For me, it has been the best conference that I've ever been to. The fact that all the speakers are hanging around.
The speakers were amazing.
I couldn't imagine anyone we could be more proud of than our Chief Technology Officer, Megan Smith.
Unlike all these other conferences in tech, you know, where you can't go up to the speaker or you've got to stand behind like, you know, 56-foot tall white guys and then you're like lost in the crowd. It was just people who are on my level in many ways.
I don't think there's any place like it. I think the X factor really has to do with you showing up though. If you show up, what I can guarantee is that it's something that you'll have connection with. You'll meet incredible people.
Lesbians Who Tech creates a community for sure. People of color are invisible within the tech community. Women are frequently invisible, but when you bring them together and we're actually able to look at ourselves, I think something special happens. It goes from just being a community to actually being a movement.
The energy in that space is unlike almost anything I've ever seen.
Holy shit! This is awesome!
Welcome to Lesbians Who Tech.
And I get the honor of inviting up our fearless leader, the person that we're going to talk about for years, somebody that I admire, you know, my constant Wednesday, Women Crush Wednesday, Leanne. Her talk right now is about, and I don't know what this word is, but it looks like take a fucking risk is what that looks like to me, how your badass leadership betters the world. And I can tell you, you better my world, mama. Come on up. So Leanne froze her eggs at the break.
I've been really busy. Can we just take a moment? This is Jasper, and he has the first ever baby lesbro tee. Ready? He's gonna remember this moment forever. He's like, Mom, remember when you put me in front of 1,600 lesbians? Hi, how are you feeling? So, I don't know if you remembered this last year, but BuzzFeed wrote an article about us called If Every Tech Conference Were More Like Lesbians Who Tech, Tech Would Be a Much Better Place. Do you agree? I'm gonna take it a step farther, because that's what I love to do. And I'm gonna say, if the world were more like Lesbians Who Tech, the world would be a better place. And I think that's because we have a certain X factor, a number of X factors. The biggest one is you. And I think because we've used these four things, these four sort of foundational elements of our organization, they've probably been what's attracted to you, these amazing people, to our organization. But I think they're things every great leader should have. And not just every great leader, but every great company. But before I get going on these four things, I want to make sure that we're on the same page, because I know that's important. I want to make sure we both agree on the world that we're trying to build. I want to live in a world where no one can lose their job because of their sexuality or gender identity. I want to live in a world where women make more than men. I want to live in a world where transgender women of color are not being murdered. I want to live in a world where our Congress actually reflects the people that live in this country. And I want to live in a world where there is a black lesbian president. So I think it's pretty safe to say we're on the same page, right? We're here. So first thing, we need to take big risks. Every leader takes big risks. Imagine a world where Edie Windsor didn't fight so that we could have the freedom to marry the person we love. Imagine a world where Martin Luther King didn't take on the status quo. What if Obama never took on the establishment? Imagine what world we'd be living in right now. Because without risk, there's literally no progress. But it's not just about big risks, right? It's about everyday risks. Sometimes it's just the little things that can literally change our life. Asking someone for coffee, donating to an organization that you really care about, hiring someone based on potential. Because we have to take risks and invest in women, LGBTQ people, people of color, and transgender people if we want to get to the world we actually want to see. Because let me tell you, there will always be more white, straight, cis men in power until there's not. And it's really up to us to change that. This is my brother, Tim. I like to talk about him whenever I can. He passed away a few years ago, and when he passed away, he was actually learning how to code. He was the second choice for the Edie Windsor Scholarship Fund, but I thought that would be inappropriate. Regardless, when he passed away, he left me his life insurance money, and I didn't know what to do with it. He was a great guy, but he didn't have a lot of passions in terms of organizations that I could write a check to. I was what my family calls the tree hugger in the family. But he was learning how to code, and my friend at the time was building a company, and so I gave his life insurance money to invest in her company. And it's literally the biggest risk I've ever taken, especially financially, and I definitely want to acknowledge that I have a lot of privilege in that moment, and not everyone can take that type of risk. But even though I lost all of his money, it's that moment, that decision, that led me to learn more about investing in women, underrepresented communities, to learn more about technology in general, that probably led me to starting my company, and what ultimately led me right here to Lesbians Who Tech and building this community. And I wouldn't take back the decision. I haven't regretted it one bit, because I know that choice has taught me everything. And I want you to think about, when you take risks, don't think about what you have to lose. think about what you have to gain. I've gained all of you, right? Number two, the second thing that I think every great leader should have, the ability to experiment. Lesbians Who Tech is a great example. You have to test your assumptions, because honestly, my assumption was that this organization would fail. I've built a lot of events, communities, specifically in the LGBTQ space, and let me tell you, getting women to show up to events is not easy. You are not easy. You're very challenging. And so I built this experiment based on, do lesbians in tech actually exist? We didn't build a nonprofit. We didn't build an organization right away. We didn't even build a website. We literally started small with a Facebook event page. And then we went to Eventbrite. And then we did some more research, more conversations. And then we led to our first summit. It's been a process. We didn't just get going with the, funding right away. We started small and we experimented. Every step of the way has been an experiment. Because what you learn through experimentation is 100 times more valuable than any strategic plan. I'm going to say this again because I think it's really important. We like to take notes, we like to think about things, but sometimes we just have to move forward. What you learn through experimentation is 100 times more valuable than any strategic plan. The third thing, we have to show up. Great leaders show up for one another, period. Kate Kendall, one of my favorite mentors, she showed up for this community before we were a real thing, before we had any real credibility, and that's meant everything. Megan Smith, Edie, she flew all the way from New York here to be here with all of us. Robbie Kaplan. Kara Swisher, she literally, I don't know how she has all the time. She says yes to so many communities that she cares about. Women, students, LGBT people. It's so important that we show up for one another when we can. Because we have to show up for women, for transgender people, for people of color, and LGBT people, period. Also, I love to say this. Obviously, the LGBTQ movement, community has been known for being very white and very male. And I think we have to be very intentional about the intersectionality and add gender and racial equality to specifically the gay agenda. But it's not about just showing up for other people. It's about showing up for ourselves. And I know that all of you, just being here today is so much, but I can't count the times that lesbians come up to me and say, Leanne, we should start a lesbian bar. The Lexington just closed, right? And I say, well, guys, we have to stop watching Scandal and drinking wine on a Thursday night. We just can't do it every night if we want the community. We can't opt out. If we want the community, we have to show up for other people, and we have to show up for ourselves. This is the fourth thing, and I think it might be one of the most important, and it's a way that you can show up. But you have to give first. Being a woman entering into a lot of LGBTQ spaces, I would often be one of the only lesbians in the space. And I think, it's really important for gay men, we call them lesbros, our all-male allies, really. But the truth is that women, people of color, transgender people, we go into spaces assuming that it's not going to reflect us, because guess what? It hasn't for years and years. And so what we have to do is give first, build trust, and we'll see so much progress. And I want to say this specifically to companies. You have to do this early on. After you hire 100, 1,000 people, it's so much harder to change that culture. Give first, even before you have funding. Go into other communities, build trust. Give them something of value first if you really want to have a diverse team. So we've decided to give more. We've already awarded $37,000 to 5 queer women to learn how to code. We're going to subsidize their coding tuition by 50%, and we're committing to do another $100,000 this year. So what are you going to do to create the world you want to see? What kind of leader are you going to be? Thank you.
Hold on. Let's have you slide back. Thank you.
I don't know what's happening.
Now, Leanne, I know that this was not part of the agenda, but it's
didn't plan
long
this.
overdue.
Yeah.
Can I have everyone on their feet, please? Leanne, you're a visionary. When I first came to Lesbians Who Tech, I felt like family. You changed my life. You made me feel that I can do anything, like you truly did. And I just want everybody to recognize what you've done. And so I wanted to present this to you on behalf of the Lesbians Who Tech team, advisors, and everyone in this audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There's very few things about the summit that I do not plan. And this is one of them. I have the best job in the world. I know I've said many times, I never thought this would be a real thing. I'm so happy I was wrong. I don't like being wrong very often, but I'm so happy that I was wrong. I have the best job. Thank you so much.